The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
Somehow, some way, the Dallas Cowboys got a win.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast.
We're talking about the Cowboys' improbable, I don't even know if that's strong enough of a word, win over the Philadelphia Eagles, 24-21. Landon, this game started about as bad as possible. The Cowboys got the ball to start. They turned it over on downs. Philadelphia went right down the field and scored. At one point, it was 21-0. And I was tweeting about draft stuff at that time, and yet they found a way to win.
Yeah, I'm still kind of completely in shock. I mean, I think when they started coming back, in the second half, even then, it felt like, well, it's good. It's good to see them have some fight. I'm glad to see them kind of scrap back in this and show some heart, because this obviously, everything's going against them, and the ball was bound. Not only they were playing poorly. Let me be very clear. Like, they played very poorly in the first half, but on top of that, the ball was bouncing the wrong way too, right? Like they got a huge penalty on a punt block that, maybe Flanoy got his finger tipped on and shouldn't have gotten a penalty. They had a couple of other unlucky things where that happened to them that kind of, that was outside of just bad play. And so it was easy to kind of, when they started to come back in the second half, be like, well, again, just glad they're making some effort, but not really count them in. And then the next thing that needed to happen in order for you to have a little bit of hope that they were going to win this game, it just kept happening. Like, even when the Eagles were driving down the field and suddenly they fumble the ball and the Cowboys have it. And it's like, what do you mean Sam Williams peanut punched the ball out and Kenneth Murray recovered the ball? That couldn't possibly happen in this game. Like, it just felt like the improbable just continued to happen, especially at the beginning of that fourth quarter. And the Cowboys, despite it not being linear, right? It not being like, oh, it all flipped and suddenly it was all Cowboys. There were lots of fits and starts for this whole situation, but it was enough that the Cowboys were able to claw their ways back into this game. And then, once it was even, that's when I really started to get nervous, and I just felt like, man, it would be terrible to lose this game, just because that would feel like a capper to the way that they played earlier in the game, but they didn't.
There's very few of these games in my lifetime where the Cowboys have had a massive deficit and they've been able to come back and win against a quality team. I think there was one like in 2014 when they played the Rams and they got down early. I think that was the game that the ball got snapped over Romo's head, I believe. Yeah. And they came back and they won games like that. But this was different, right? Like, the Cowboys never had the lead in this game until there was no time left on the clock in the fourth quarter. And it was one of those games where it just felt like they were always they were making plays, right? But they were always one more play away from really breaking through, whether that was CeeDee Lamb dropping the ball into the end zone, whether that was the interception that happened in the end zone, or on defense, they couldn't get that one turnover with the ball, popping up in the air, but they did it. And it didn't feel particularly fluky on defense. And we're going to get to the defense in a little bit. It felt like over time, the Cowboys' talent started to win out. And I think that's what was so unique about this, is that it did feel like, for at least in the second half, like the Cowboys were the better team. And as long as they stayed out of their own way, they were going to be fine.
Yeah, it was about having enough time to kind of complete this comeback at a certain point, right? Like, you felt like the gravity of the talent was on the Cowboys' side at a certain point. It wasn't just, could we get another stop? It was like, I feel like they're going to get a stop here. And if the Cowboys can actually do something with it on offense, and I think that's what kind of, really made this game kind of extend a little bit, especially in the second half, is that the Cowboys kept on making these stops and the Eagles kept on punting the ball, and the Cowboys would get the ball like on their own 8-yard line, on their own 7-yard line, and then they would march 70 yards down the field and then commit a penalty in the red zone and then kind of, make the whole red zone nonsense difficult. Well, we need to have a whole conversation about the Cowboys' inability to consistently run the football in the red zone, which I think is an off-season conversation.
Well, about their willingness to, or just the fact that
yes, whatever you're about to say, yes, all of it.
Yeah,
the willingness or whether it's the ability to, it's like, yes, the fact that they can't and that they won't is becoming a real problem for this team when they're able to move the football consistently. But that's feels so kind of start and stop-ish on offense.
We're going to talk about the defense. We're going to talk about George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb here in a little bit, but big picture, the Cowboys are 5-5-1. And from a playoff standpoint, Sunday actually wasn't a very good day for them because Green Bay won, Detroit won, Chicago won, a lot of the other contenders won. Now, honestly, your best path to the playoffs, and we talked about this on Friday's show, is to win the division and hope the Philadelphia collapse happens. It starts with a nice loss this week against the Cowboys. But one of the things that we said, coming out of the bye week is that we just wanted to see the Cowboys play better football. And whether that resulted in a playoff berth or not, we just wanted them to be a more functional football team. There were a lot of times in this game, Lana, they were not functional. They were not competent. They were making stupid penalties. And I don't even know how many times we tweeted, this is a dumb team. But different players stepped up when they needed it, and they got a really gritty win, again, that we just haven't seen very often in the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that this is exactly the kind of game that the Cowboys would find a way to lose, right? And the fact that they were able to pull it out, and despite their kind of own shooting themselves in the foot at certain points. And look, I think we need to do a deeper dive on some of this, because I do think that there was some stuff that was consistently good. I mean, especially when you consider how good this Eagles defense was. I thought that the Cowboys offensive line played absolutely lights out. Guyton had a couple penalties in the red zone, one of which may have been manufactured. I kind of want to go back and listen to the audio on that one. But I think overall, Dak was able to throw. I mean, he threw the ball 36 times and was able to do so with only getting sacked once. I don't think he was pressured very much. And they were able to go over 4 yards a carry with 125 yards running the football. So I thought that the offensive line, for the most part, played really good against a really good Eagles defensive line. But outside of that, they struggled to find consistency in their pass catchers. We'll have a whole conversation about that. But I think despite the inability to kind of consistently punch it in for points in the red zone, they were provided enough chances by their own defense, which is so rare, that they were eventually able to kind of break through, and that was the difference.
Let's talk about the Cowboys defense in this one, because I know this Philadelphia offense has had some struggles in recent weeks. That still doesn't take away all of the talent. It still doesn't take away what they did last year. They're a Super Bowl caliber team. They started off this game 14-0. And then the Cowboys had the really unfortunate play, the Ryan Flournoy play, right? But from that point on, the Cowboys had 8 straight drives on defense where they got to stop, including the final drive of the game, 5 plays, 17 yards punt. Considering the opponent and the situation where you were in a negative game script all game long, I'm trying to think of the last time they played a game this well. You probably have to go all the way back to 2023.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, think about it this way. The Eagles have played this sort of game, it feels like 6 times, in the last season, this season so far, and they've won most of those games, right? Including the one against the Cowboys in week 1, right? And for the Cowboys defense to be the difference, there was a point where the Cowboys offense was just flailing. They just couldn't seem to kind of get it together. A certain point early, there was a certain point kind of in the middle of this game as well, where it just felt like the Cowboys couldn't consistently get the first downs they needed to get into in order to get into scoring position. And think about how many times you as a fan were sitting there and thinking, please just give us one more stop. Just find a way to get one more stop, right? And really the closest they came, was that second to last drive, right? Where the Cowboys forced a fumble, right? And look, the Cowboys defense really continuously stepped up And then they got a little bit of luck, obviously, with the missed field goal. But even that, the reason they're kicking that field goal is because they got pushed back because of the way that the defense was playing. So, I mean, again, it wasn't perfect, but considering what we were dealing with before the bye, this is just a completely different unit. It's playing with a different tenor. Even the guys, I mean, look, again, Sam Williams punched the ball out and Kenneth Murray recovered it. I'm not going to harp on that anymore. The fact that some of these guys who just continuously have been problems, they're getting the ability to only have to be on the field enough that we're not seeing their flaws exposed as much. And we're seeing guys like DeMarvion Overshone and Carson getting more opportunities, and Revel. I think it's just been a huge turnaround on every level of this defense, especially obviously starting up front with Quinnen Williams and all those guys.
So you would think in a game where Philadelphia has a 21-0 lead that they just lean on the run game. That wasn't the case, and it's not because they didn't try. They weren't effective. Saquon Barkley, Landon, from the time the game started was 21-0, right? From that point on, had 11 rushing yards. And it's because the Cowboys were so good at stopping these early down runs and getting Philadelphia into these 2nd and 9s, 3rd and 10s. They had a couple, 3rd and 12s, 3rd and 15s, one of which they converted, but they got him into these long down and distances, and they were able to get off the field. And that's something they just weren't doing at the beginning of the season. It's something they weren't doing last year. And I feel crazy saying this, but their run defense is now one of their strengths. This is back-to-back weeks where they were really good at stopping the run.
Well, it's what we talked about, right? If the Cowboys can find a way to make them one-dimensional and make Jalen Hurts throw the football from the pocket, the difference in the way they were throwing the football when they were in a neutral game script versus when they were trying to control the clock, I mean, I think ultimately made a huge difference because they had no ability to get the yards that they needed to eat the clock that they needed to win the game, right? Because ultimately the game on that side of the ball became about who was winning second down on that drive, right? Or on that set of downs. If the Cowboys were able to stop them to an unsuccessful play on second down and set them into a 3rd and long, the Cowboys were, both teams ended up at 40, just above 40% on 3rd downs, which isn't great, but I think, ultimately you saw that the Cowboys were getting them into spots where they needed to get them off the field. And again, enough times that it was on the Philadelphia Eagles side of the ball that they had to, punt the ball and turn the ball over, as opposed to get into a position where they could, get to a short 4th down and push. They only had one of those attempts in this game because they didn't have any opportunity to use it.
I want to talk about the defensive tackles. Osa got the huge sack at the end of the game to give the Cowboys a chance to win the game, and they ultimately did. That was awesome to see him do that. But Quinnen Williams, I know he didn't have a sack in this game, but if you're listening to this podcast, you know that sacks can be kind of fluky. This is the 2nd week in a row that he's had a pass rush win rate of 25% or better. He dominated Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens and Tyler Steen. And that's why you go out and get him, because it frees up all of these other guys. 8 pressures in this game for Quinnen Williams. That is unheard of for a defensive tackle.
Yeah, second best Landon didn't have a chance against Quinnen Williams. It was really dominating him. And I think that, honestly, it just felt like as they were kind of getting later into the game, the Cowboys defensive line was only getting better and stronger. You just felt like Hurts was getting, even down at the end, with what we talked about, they were able to crunch Hurts back into the pocket. There were some times he was able to slip out and kind of get what he needed to and pick up some first downs. But for the most part, you felt like you could feel the pressure on him, and he was, missing on even some key. I think there was a part in the 3rd quarter where he completed something like 13 passes in the first half. And there was a point in the 3rd quarter, I think near the end, where he had only completed two passes in the whole quarter. The Cowboys were just, constantly getting him into pressure to the point where he was missing wide open and easy stuff, which is, ultimately what you want. You can't always rely on the corners to just be able to cover everything for the whole time. Sometimes it's about forcing the quarterback to throw it when he's not ready to. And the Cowboys defensive line did a great job of that.
I just want to read to you the drives the Cowboys had on defense after Philadelphia took the 21-0 lead. And again, remember, 7 of those points came after the penalty on the punt. So, and again, the Cowboys defense got a 3 and out on that one, and it was kind of a bad call. But this is from that point on. 3 plays, -2 yards punt, 3 plays, 1 yard punt, 3 plays, 3 yards punt, 6 plays, 18 yards punt, 3 plays, 7 yards punt, 7 plays, 30 yards, and that was the 57-yard missed field goal. 6 plays, 33 yards fumble, 5 plays, 17 yards punt. I mean, that is a dominating defensive performance from basically the second quarter on.
Yeah, and again, it just the tenure of everything, the confidence level that everyone's playing with right now, it's just different. It's just professional level, which is something that I don't feel like we were getting earlier in the season.
Can I ask you something real quick?
Yeah, please.
Okay, do you think this is a Quinnen Williams thing where he's just so dominant that he helps everybody do better? Is it because you're getting some other guys healthy, like DeMarvion Overshown, Savon Ravel, or? And again, I know Cowboy fans probably don't want to hear this, but is it because Eberflus's defense is starting to play a little bit faster? Because I will say, in Chicago, this is what happened with the Bears. That first year that Matt Eberflus was there, their defense was awful. But by the second half of the season, they started to really clamp down. Could that be happening here?
I think it's all of it. I also think the Marshawn Nealon stuff has just brought everyone together in another level. I don't think that they can put a finger on what it is, but I think that it's a confluence of all of those things, the additions, including people coming off the injury list. All of it has just added up to the vibe being very different, right? And them just kind of accepting that and living kind of day to day helps them easily change and be a little bit more able to adapt and say, hey, that's not who we were 3 weeks ago. We're a different team now. And right now, as their play confirms it, it's a lot like Kalen Carson, right? Like when you play confident, when you prepare confidently, and then the results show up for you, you start believing in yourself a lot more, and you start playing that way all the time, and that helps your overall game.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in the moment, whether it's building a same-game parlay or jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
The Chiefs get the win over the Colts, and this is exactly how they have to play the rest of the season until hell freezes over.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Win against what was the number one offense in the league, Matt, in the Indianapolis Colts, and at times they looked like it. They were able to grind out drives, and they just kept coming, although it was not all roses for them. I was very impressed with Steve Spagnuolo's unit to come out and keep, other than one busted run, to keep Jonathan Taylor at really a non-factor in this ballgame. Did that surprise you?
And it did not. I mean, it sounds crazy to say that, but it didn't really surprise me because this is what Steve Spagnuolo and this defense has hung its head on the last few years, has been able to stop the run. And we talk about how good this defense has been, and the run defense has probably been the underrated aspect of that. But it's what they've done. They've only given up one 100-yard rusher since that Christmas Day loss to the Raiders a couple of years ago. And that just shows you how strong it's been, but they take a lot of pride in that. And this week, there's no doubt they were on a mission to shut down and take away Jonathan Taylor. That was job number one, because once again, as the Chiefs say, if you in that room says, Daniel Jones is the quarterback, that's what the Chiefs wanted to do. So the plan, it worked perfectly, and that's why they got the win today.
You look at this game and you look at how it played out, and Kansas City, held Taylor to like 30 yards on 15 carries, 2 yards a carry. That one big 27-yard run, and everything else, they basically held him to nothing. That's exactly what you need to do against teams like this. And the one thing that I will say with Cook getting 100 yards, big thing with that is They have Josh Allen. Chiefs have to be worried about that a little bit. I don't think that they really have to worry about Daniel Jones as much. And you kind of saw why today, because he put the ball in harm's way multiple times. The Chiefs weren't able to capitalize on it, but he definitely gave them the opportunities to make this a maybe not even a one-score game, because Daniel Jones tried to give the Chiefs the ball multiple times in one drive.
Yeah, there was that interception, obviously, that Shamari Connor could have had. Probably Nick Bolton's best pass breakup of the season. I know the one in Jacksonville that he and Drew Tranquil had was pretty good too. But chief on chief crime there, breaking up the pass. That was one that certainly looked like there for a brief second might end up costing the Chiefs, but they came out of it and they worked out okay.
It certainly did. And I think the run game is really the headline of this game, is the fact that for the first time since I started crying into a microphone 15 years ago, Andy Reid actually called a game that was nearly balanced with 41 called runs today. Kareem Hunt putting up 3.5 a carry, only a rounding error difference from what Jonathan Taylor was able to do. I thought that was not only the key to this game, but the key to actually leveling the playing field for where they needed to set their foundation to begin to rebuild. 70 of Kareem Hunt's 104 yards came after contact today. So kudos to him as well. How important is this running game after today, Matt?
I mean, it's huge because, we saw why the Chiefs were having troubles early in this game. The Colts paid no respect whatsoever to the run game at the very beginning of the game. There were lanes that were wide open. The Chiefs had plenty of opportunities to run, and they did run, and they ran somewhat effectively in the first half, had some success. They got an all-throw mode there at the last couple of drives because they were trying to go up and down the field quickly, particularly on that last drive before the half. But what I was really impressed with was that Andy Reid stuck with it in the second half. He was forcing the Indianapolis to pay attention to the run and pay respect to it, so that when they did get into the mode where they were, trying to move down the field, Colts just couldn't lean back and play for the pass, and so that kind of helped them open up things later in the game, because then they had to respect the run. I mean, because they knew that the Chiefs were at that point willing to go down the field 3.5 yards in a cloud of dust, and particularly that final drive in an overtime. I mean, the Chiefs had the time to do it, so. Just absolutely dominated the time of possession and play. This was complementary football at its best. When you're holding on to the football, you run all the plays, you keep their defense out on the field. I'm sure I have not heard from Shane Steichen after the game, but I'm sure that's why that he chose to get the ball at the beginning of overtime, because his defense had been on the field for pretty much all of the fourth quarter and needed a break. So that the fact that the Chiefs were able to run the football and control things, one, it eventually opened things up for Mahomes in the passing game, and two, it accomplished what they needed, which was to hold on to the football and dictate the terms of this game.
It's still crazy to me that they ended up calling that they wanted the ball at the end. I understand what you're saying about the time of possession and that their defense was gassed, but you give the distinct advantage to the team that gets the ball second, because they know exactly what they have to do. They have 4 downs to do it, and I guarantee you, if Patrick Mahomes wins that instead of the Colts, he's deferring. There's no way Kansas City's taking that. And not only that, but like the Colts offense had been playing bad to begin with. So it's like, I mean, you're in a situation where you only have 3 downs to try to get a first down versus, flipping it and having possibly 4, knowing that exactly what you need to do to have a chance to win the game, or force, a tie or whatever. I just think that this game plan by Kansas City, throwing the ball 46 times, I think he got sacked 3 or 4 times. So you've got close to 50 pass attempts, 40 run attempts. I mean, absolutely insane numbers when you get that many kind of offensive plays. But when you look at it from that perspective, the Chiefs ran the ball for over 150 yards. They threw the ball for 350 yards. They dominated this game in every way, shape, or form except for the scoreboard. They ended up winning, but it was closer than it should have been. Kansas City needs to find a way to put the ball in the end zone going forward.
And I'll add one thing about from the coaching standpoint, the play calling standpoint, because we haven't talked about it yet. And a talking point, I'm sure, in Indianapolis this week and probably around the nation is going to be, what was Shane Steichen thinking about throwing the football as much as they did. I think he threw the football 10 straight times there in the fourth quarter when they had, was it 3 or 4 straight drives where they went 3 and out. And they were just giving the Chiefs possession. They were giving them time. They were stopping the clock. And I think only one of those throws may have ended up going to Jonathan Taylor, and that's the other. I mean, the thing is, this is their best running back in the league. This is the guy that you count on. And if you're not going to give him the ball in the fourth quarter because the Chiefs have kicked you in the teeth, I mean, one, that's going to make the Chiefs feel really good after the game when they know that they took away Indianapolis's candy and forced them to give up on running the football in the fourth quarter. But two, I wonder what it's going to do to Indianapolis, because the fact that they were just apparently terrified to try and give the ball to their bell cow running back in the fourth quarter to ice the game was stunning to me.
Lions hang on and win, but man, was that excruciating today.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast.
I heard the boo birds, loud boos when the offense could not convert. Loud boos when Jameis Winston is catching touchdown passes. Jameis Winston dancing in your end zone up 10 in the fourth quarter. It looked bleak. The Lions were hosting the 2-win Giants and getting curb stomped. 3rd and 17. Woo! Jameis is going to throw it up there. They'll convert it. Giants running. This Mike Kafka, the Giants interim coach, he wants the job bad. He's running double reverse passes back to the quarterback. He's running flea flickers. Lions are clueless, have no idea how to stop it. It was a pathetic performance at times today from this football team. With that being said, they won. They somehow found a way, as Dave Kaplan of ESPN 1000 and the recap in Chicago always says about his Bears, find a way to win a football game. The Lions found a way, thanks to the Giants, who blow every lead every week. Giants couldn't hang on to beat the Broncos. Giants couldn't hang on to beat the Packers. Giants couldn't hang on to beat the Bears. Giants couldn't hang on to beat the Eagles. And today it happened again. They led by 10 in the fourth quarter. They led by 10 after the first quarter. And yet the Lions fought back. And one guy that was non-existent for most of the day, Aiden Hutchinson, had a huge fourth quarter, and then in overtime sealed the game with the sack of Jameis Winston to win it. And credit to Aleem McNeil as well for pitching in there and kind of pushing back the center, forcing Jameis out of the pocket into the arms of Aiden Hutchinson. But again, this was an escape job. This is a football team that if they play like this on Thursday, on Thanksgiving at 1:00 at Ford Field against Green Bay, they will lose. They are not playing the Giants again. They're playing the Packers coming up. They're playing the Cowboys coming up. Both those teams are better than the team they played today. The Giants are terrible. Now, you watched Wan'Dale Robinson today, and you thought he was the second coming of Jerry Rice against the Lions secondary. You watched Isaiah Hodgins making play. What's going on here? And I'm sitting with some Giant fans today in the suite, and like they're telling me how great Theo Johnson is. I'm like, oh, the Penn State kid, 3 catches, 77 yards. The defense today was brutal. You can't give up 27 points to Jameis Winston. The Lions did. The mistakes, the penalties, my God, the Brian Branch helmet to helmet. Again, Jameson Williams, no catches again. False starts, burning timeouts after you spike the ball in the fourth quarter. What's going on? A timeout, a timeout not used at the end of the half, and then you're settling for a long field goal. And give credit to Jake Bates, and he was amazing today. But Campbell going into the half with a timeout in his pocket again, just like last week. Like, what are we doing? They got and Campbell said it after the game. They got some stuff to clean up. Yeah, they do. Glasgow and Awashika getting curb stomped, bull rushed, waxed, poleaxed, mollywopped, whatever you want to say. I mean, Awashika, what are you doing? Block somebody. Oh, sexy Dexy, Dexter Lawrence. He's had it down here. Not today. He's in the Lions backfield a ton. with all that negativity, with all that happened today, and I'm just telling it like it is, the Lions still won. And thank goodness for Jahmyr Gibbs. 49-yard touchdown run, 69-yard touchdown run in overtime. This guy is just insanely good. The Lions have a special back, man. 264 total yards today from a Lions running back is a franchise record. 15 carries, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns. He caught 11 passes for 45 yards, and there was one he was interfered on that they didn't call in fourth quarter on that last drive. 3 touchdown day for Jahmyr Gibbs. And I know I'm doing game balls at the end of the show, but my God, he should get all the game balls. He is the whole team at times. There are times you look up and you go, man, if they don't have Jahmyr Gibbs, it is toast. Curtains. Crowd's getting restless. Boo birds are out. It's quiet. The Giants are controlling the game. Boom. Jahmyr pops a 49-yard touchdown run, brings him to within 3. He ran for 219 yards today, ladies and gentlemen. And we sit here and go, well, David Montgomery's got to get more touches. Matt Derry said on the Locked On Lions show, Monty this and Monty that. And I love David Montgomery. But when you got Jahmyr Gibbs, it's a different story here. But if I would have told you before the game today that Jared Goff was going to have to throw the ball 42 times to win, you would have told me I was crazy. Giants run defense is buns, booty cheeks, terrible. And yet Goff had to throw a lot because the Lions were playing from behind. Jameis Winston threw for 366 on us. What's going on here? And he threw the classic Jameis interception that we were waiting for. But he played a really good game today and caught a touchdown pass. He was sacked once today, once. At the end of the game, the last play of the game. Not enough pressure. I don't care if it's Jameis Winston. I don't care if it's Jameson Williams. I don't care if it's, Jay Leno. I don't care if it's Shedeur Sanders who's playing right now as I'm broadcasting. You give a quarterback in this league time, they're going to pick you apart. The front today was not good enough. McNeil and Hutchinson at the end of the game made the play of the game to ice the game. But during the game, there were times sitting there, I was talking to Turner and others and Jody and the crew, and I'm like, where's Hutch? Andrew Thomas was owning him today when he lined up on the Lions' right side, the Giants' left side. That's a damn good left tackle that really kind of neutralized him today. But they had to have this game. And they won this game. All right. At the end of the year, we're not going to go back and go, well, the Lions just won a playoff game and they're going to, but remember the Giants. No, yes, we'll have it in a context of how they're playing and how they could play better. But they had to win and they won, period. That was a winning game. It's W in the win column. It's 7 wins now. Dan Campbell said it. It wasn't pretty. We got stuff to clean up, but we'll take it. You've got to play who's on your schedule and win those games. There's 3 straight here at home. If this team cleans some of this up, 9 penalties today, they clean some of this up, they're going to beat the Packers. Green Bay won today behind their defense, which is really good. So for all the struggles that the Lions offense had at times this afternoon, it's going to have to be better this week against Micah Parsons and company.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in the moment, whether it's building a same-game parlay or jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Oregon overcame what seemed like everything.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks.
I don't know how I still have voice left today. I called a double overtime football game for SUU, and now I am here And oh my goodness, this was just an incredible football game across the board. And Oregon played phenomenally well. And also at the same time, horrifically sloppy. And yet you look up and they've beaten USC number 15 by 15. I can't wait for the committee to drop USC out of the rankings and everyone be able to say, oh, Oregon hadn't beaten a ranked team. Hasn't happened. Haven't done it, man. I think the word that comes to my mind most often as I think about this win is overcome. Oregon had to overcome a lot because the offensive line injuries were actually wild. Legitimately insane. I am so unbelievably impressed with Alik Terry and his guys and having them ready to go. By the end of the game, this was the game day matchup, the premier game in college football this week. All eyes were on Autzen. And while the game was still well within doubt, you had Charlie Pickard at center, former walk-on, and guys who, if I'd made a long depth chart when the season began, would have been anywhere from 4th to 6th on the offensive tackle group. Those guys were out there playing. You barely noticed. Oregon was without, 11 players? It felt like you could have put together a pretty good team of injured ducks offensively that were on the sidelines in this game. It was absolutely incredible. And USC dealt with injuries as well. They absolutely did. But it was not as severe as Oregon. Not even close. Because the group up front, that is where I just keep coming back to. Dante Moore in this game was sacked a grand total of 0 times. Oregon averaged just 4.4 yards a carry, one of their lowest totals of the season, but they ran for 179 yards as a team. Man, that offensive line just showed up. And in the game, the biggest game that USC has played under Lincoln Riley in 3 years. They're playing to have the right to go to the playoff. They win that game, and USC plays UCLA for the right to go to the playoff next week. I wouldn't even push back on it. Wouldn't have pushed back if Oregon had been left out at 10-2 in that scenario. Had to have it. Game of the year, and guys embraced to the maximum the next man up mentality you've got to have in a spot like that. Just an incredible effort from the boys up front. Absolutely phenomenal. And man, there has to be a hint of embarrassment in there for USC. You didn't sack Dante Moore, and you couldn't stop Oregon's rushing attack, and they were playing guys who haven't even logged 100 snaps. I think there are guys playing that didn't even have 50 snaps on the season. And you still couldn't get it done. Still could not get it done. USC got every single pass interference flag to go in their direction, or not have a flag thrown at all when it was warranted, or just flags in general. And yet Oregon won the game by 15. The amazing thing about this game is that Oregon was overcoming all of that. The injuries, the penalties, against a good USC team. And they could have won this game by 30 points. This could have gotten ugly. And Oregon made a bevy of mistakes to allow USC to stay in it. And guess what? I'm not going to talk about those today. I'm not going to talk about the bad stuff, because this is a win that should be embraced by Duck fans, held on to, emotionally carried with them as they go to sleep tonight, and it should have some residual effects when you wake up on Sunday morning, because man, that was an awesome football game. You've got a rival coming to town, you've got game day in town, everything was there. You had to have it. And when your backs were against the wall, and I was going to say when the chips were down, but how about when most of your team feels like they're down? The offense just steps up. in a big way. Defense didn't have its best day. Defense did more than enough. USC in this game ran for 52 yards as a team. 52. I think that's their lowest total of the year. I'm going to double check that. So was the defense perfect? Nope, certainly not. But did they do enough things well? Yes, they absolutely did. Remember what the story was on the defense, or the narrative, so to speak, coming into the year? It was that they have not been able to keep good teams in big games under 30 points. Well, here we are. 27 points, and nope, it wasn't perfect. They made some mistakes. I think the officiating helped out USC in a significant way. And for the second time this year, I have felt that way about a game that Oregon has played. And again, I cannot attribute that to malicious intent when it's very easily attributable to incompetence. And the way that Oregon just overcame time and again, and they had chances to put this game away, and they just simply didn't. USC stats are not coming up for some reason, so I'll get back to you on the rushing thing. But the way that Oregon overcame again and went and played, and they had chances and made mistakes. I'm going to talk about those tomorrow because, man, this was a stressful game at the end, and it was exciting. It was exhilarating. It was all of those things. However, if Oregon had played a better brand of football, I think they would have put up at least 56 points. At least. I think they could have gone for more. They didn't. But man, the Will Stein critics have to take a seat today. Doesn't mean there won't be opportunities to return to that train. You can't be there today, even though there were moments where I was wanting to rip my hair out at certain spots in this game, without question. Without question. And guess what? 42 points in a big game when you had to have it and the defense was off. Oregon's ability to play complementary football this year has been great. In Penn State, the defense had to step up in the first half, and the offense got it going. They go out and win the game. And here, defense doesn't have its best day. Doesn't have its best fastball. Usually tops out 97, 98. Today is 94, 95. Well, you better have a sweeper or a slider, and they did. And that was the offense today.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in the moment, whether it's building a same-game parlay or jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
The Oklahoma Sooners are 9-2.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners.
Sooners pull out the victory against Missouri 17-6. And Oklahoma's now really in the driver's seat, heading to a potential chance of going 10-2 and walking into the playoffs. And so we're going to jump in. We're going to break down the game. We're going to look at both sides of the ball like we always do. John is out today, so you got your boy Jay here. You can follow me at Unfair Sports, as well as check out my channel, Unfair Sports, for more Oklahoma content, college football, and SEC content itself. And the Sooners did it. They just did it. That's basically the only thing I can say out of this. The defense was bending but did not break. They forced Missouri to play the game that they did not want to play. And I don't think people understand when I say that they dominated Missouri, but they really did, because Missouri likes to do one thing and one thing only. They like to run down your throat. That is their strength. That is the most powerful and potent portion of their offense. And guess what happened? We only gave up 70 yards of total offense, of rushing in this game. We gave up 301 total yards. We were almost at the 200 mark. We was holding them, but in the fourth quarter, they ended up finishing with like 106 yards of offense. But Oklahoma did a really good job of forcing the run game after it bursted in the first quarter. 61 yards in the first quarter rushing for Missouri. Second quarter, they had 9 yards. Third quarter, they had 9 more yards. And in fourth quarter, they finished with -9 yards. And so, in that respect, the second half, Missouri only had 0 rushing yards. That, to me, tells you everything you needed to know about how this defense plays. This tells you everything you need to know about how Brent Venables has been pushing this defense to be great. Yes, the offense has struggled, but don't worry. I'm going to rip into them a little bit later. So if you want to hear that part, stick around. But the defense is the one that deserves all of the flowers. Hardy, who is, hands down, the best running back in college football. I don't care nobody say. You can argue with your mom on that one. That man had 17 carries for 57 yards. He had one big 20-yard play, and if you take that away, 16 carries for 37 yards. You did your job in this game. And we talked about this before the game. John Miller from Locked On Missouri talked about it in the crossover. I talked about it with Coop over on my channel on the Sooner or Later Sports Podcast. Guess what? The only way you win this game is to stop Hardy. You did it. Jamal Roberts, the other dynamic running back they had, 10 carries, 14 yards. So overall, this defense did its job. And the good thing about this is, and I know a lot of people have been in the comments, I see some of you guys in there too as well, that you got to get this offense going to be successful long term. It's about to get cold. And the one thing that travels in the cold, defenses and rushing. So we'll talk about how the rushing was going, but the defense did exactly what you needed. Going 9-2, I for real, I want y'all to hop in these comments. I'm reading what you're saying as I'm talking, but I want y'all to explain something to me. How many of y'all thought we were going to win 9 games this year? Go ahead. Tell me. I want y'all to be truthful with me and yourself, because I said 10 wins was the floor for this team. We're at the floor. Now we just got to win next week. Not putting the cart before the horse. We got to win. But 9-2 feels good, right? Like 9-2 feels like something to celebrate. No, we've got a lot of complaining to do, though. We've got a lot of things we need to get better at. And as BV would say, if you follow me on social media at Unfair Sports, you'll see me post this every time something good comes from Oklahoma. Excuse me. It ain't good enough. It ain't good enough. You need more. And the good thing is, the defense keeps rising to the occasion that we need. That is what's most important. So many people did not believe in this team going into this game. Not that they would lose to Missouri, but Missouri truly had a chance. And I'm going to say, I totally agreed on that. Missouri had to play a borderline flawless game, and they couldn't. Bo Pribula comes in. He plays on that, messed up ankle. 20 for 36, 231 yards. 2 picks. We caused more turnovers again, y'all. Jacoby Johnson with a sick interception. And then Eli Bowen closes the game out with his pick. We did what we needed. He was not comfortable in that pocket at all. He was not feeling good. 8 tackles for loss for this defense. We had 4 sacks. So you know our dudes was out there forcing and causing problems. Something that I love to see. Grayson Halton and Taylor Wine teaming up for a sack together, and Taylor Wine getting one by himself. He finished with 1.5 sacks, folks, and 2 tackles for loss. Look, Taylor Wine's that dude. Period. Taylor Wine's that dude. DBs did work. You saw Cortland Guillory out there causing issues. You saw them trying their hardest to match up their receivers with our safeties because the angles were definitely going to be in their favor. They got some solid passes out of it. But Bowen was breaking up passes. You got Kip and Kendall Daniels out there balling. Don't worry, I'm going to get into the egregiousness of the refs because as y'all know, I preach this same sermon all the time. Never let the refs determine your success. You can't lean in on them, guys. We know that they're not going to call the stuff that we need in order to win and be successful. We know it's not going to happen. So I understand the grievances in the comments because I have many of them as well that I will talk about after the first break. But what I want to say here is I am just proud of this defense. Because I'm going to be honest, that first half made me feel like initially that, man, this defense is going to quit after a while. They're getting tired of this crap. But the good thing is their love for Brent Venables is so high that their love for Oklahoma, their love for the strain, their love for the grind is too big to want to quit or even feel like it's BS, right? They know that we're going to have some things down on our side. They're going to call some Bush League calls. They're going to call some ridiculous flags out there. We know it. So we got to make sure we keep our head down and grind it. And this is what was beautiful. Targeting call. I'm going to break it down a little bit later. But the fact that after that play, the ball don't lie, we get an interception. We had to let them know, man. It was absurd to even call it, period. But we had so many good moments, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that put a smile on my face. Even in all of this pain. I feel like the Facebook meme. Somebody saying you should smile more. Ain't nothing to smile in my life right now. Because of just everything's not going in cohesion as we would like. But the good thing overall is Oklahoma did what they needed to do to finish this game. Time of possession is wild. 32 for Missouri, 27 for Oklahoma. And I'm going to be 100% honest, I thought it was higher than that. I thought Missouri had the ball for 40 minutes. Felt like it. It felt like they had the ball for 40 minutes in this game. But they didn't. 32, 27. But then you started to see as the game progressed, Oklahoma did a really, really, really good job of turning up here in the second half. They did a good job of forcing Missouri to play the game that they don't want to, especially when you finally got some explosive plays and you close them out. You close them out at the end of the second quarter. Halftime, you had it. That's when you're like, all right, this game is done. So I want to make sure that us as fans, as much as we would like to complain about the littlest things, and again, I am not nullifying anybody's complaints. I am not telling you can't. I'm just reminding you, it's okay to see that sunshine coming through that dark cloud. You saw some of it. You saw the sun beaming, so you know it's there. You know there is sunshine there.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in the moment, whether it's building a same-game parlay or jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
If I told you that TCU won a game over a top 25 team without Josh Hoover playing his best game, would you believe me?
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
TCU has done it. TCU has pulled off an upset over top 25 ranked Houston. I didn't see it coming. I don't think most of you saw it coming, but are we happy about how it came about? I think that's a huge question to ask, but I will say the stance should be an upset is an upset. They say a win is a win. An upset is an upset. That's the approach that I'm taking. We'll look in segment 2 at some of the game balls that we're handing out because homecomings in the city of Houston were very favorable, very kind to TCU. But Josh Hoover threw 3 interceptions. Jeremy Payne ran for 100 yards. So it's kind of like, which one do I put more stock in? That's the way that I feel about it. This game feels a little bit like the kombucha tasting meme that you've seen. The one where the lady takes a sip and says, then says, oh, it's kind of good. I don't know. Then it's good again. That's how this game feels. That's the way that I would articulate it. That's the way that I would bring an analogy to it. And honestly, I think that is the most accurate way to say it without using any sort of words. because Josh Hoover has been the engine to this offense since the beginning. Josh Hoover has been the guy who we all sit here and say he's going to take TCU as far as he can go. Matter of fact, I came on here this morning telling you how Josh Hoover needed to have a good game, not an all-timer. I didn't call it this week. Last week, I said he needed an all-timer in order to beat BYU, but I thought he needed a good game to beat Houston. Now, what I'll say about Hoover is it wasn't all bad. The way it started was phenomenal, and then it got really cold, and then it really felt like it hit the wall. He threw not 2, but 3 interceptions on the day, and somehow TCU still won this game. That's because the defense stood up. The defense did their part. I'm not going to really hone in on the negativity. I'm not going to hone in on the things that he did wrong because, like I said, an upset is an upset. I thought that this was a really good game by the defense. The defense needed a bounce back. I was fearful that Amari Thomas was someone who could make that not quite be what it wanted, not what we wanted it to, or excuse me, I was afraid that Amari Thomas could be a player who denied TCU's ability to have a bounce back performance, but that's not how it happened. I thought that defensively you had stars like Caleb Elarms or Jordan Lester. I thought that Devin Deal had a couple of plays in which he made an impact. This was a strong performance by a team on the defensive side of the ball who really needed a strong performance. I'm not going to say championing them, but I have been very high on what TCU could be as a defense. This is a great example of it. Did they allow some things to happen? Yes, but they bowled up in the red zone, and it's the difference maker in the game. At the end of the day, what TCU's defense did in the red zone, not just once, but 3 different times, is the difference maker between 17 points to 14 points. It's the difference between TCU scores to Houston score. It's the difference between winning and losing. And I don't know what happens if you lose this game. I think things start getting really turned up as far as conversations go. But the defense's ability to force a turnover on downs, and then 2 field goals that ended up missing. That is, what is it?
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
It's not one. It's the turning points. It's the forcing a turnover on downs when you're in scoring position. They get aggressive. They want to go for it instead of just taking the points. All right, cool. TCU's a bow up, and they'll go ahead and knock that down. You talk about a missed field goal. I thought Eddie Sanchez's lack of accuracy in this game was easily the most shocking development. So, Ethan Sanchez. Ethan Sanchez came into this game, this is the Houston kicker, averaging 86.9%. Houston's kicker, y'all hearing me? The guy who missed the final kick, the one that gave TCU the win. Ethan Sanchez had made 86.9% of his kicks. That means he was making nearly 9 out of 10 attempts. He had never missed a kick under 40 yards. He had made a kick between 48, and then he also made another one at 52. His leg was too short for the 49-yard field goal he attempted today. He missed a 38-yard field goal. Sometimes you just have to look and say things were in TCU's favor. There are a lot of reasons in which I feel like the Frogs shouldn't have won this game. There's a lot of reasons on why I feel like TCU should have not only lost, but probably lost by a touchdown, maybe 10 points, because you had some mistakes. You had opportunities presented to you that you didn't accomplish or that you didn't capitalize on. You had leads that you just squandered. You had turnovers by your best star. There are a lot of reasons why this shouldn't have gone well, but the defense continuously provided you with opportunities, right? So you get down in the end zone, you have an interception. That's one thing, because it wasn't a turnover downs. I forgot he actually caught the interception. And that's something I think should actually be discussed. It didn't end up meaning anything in the long run, but the fact that TCU caught that interception in the end zone as opposed to knocking it down when everybody knew they were going to the tight end. Everybody knew that Houston was going to their tight end. You had like 2, maybe 3 players on them. You caught that pass. You caught that interception. And instead of taking the ball at the 1, you took the ball at the 20. And quite frankly, if you don't have a fumble on that drive, you're probably going to respond with points, because generating offense is much easier when you're starting from the 20-25 as opposed to starting from the 1-yard line. It's much easier when you feel like you don't have to worry about, okay, we have to get 2-3 yards We have to get 2-3 yards. If you don't get on first down, you got to try to get it on second. If you don't get it on second, enough on second, you got to be extremely cautious on third. And now you maybe give the ball right back to Houston with decent field position, but you're at the 20-yard line and you have a much better shot at getting points, and you should have got points. But that's what I mean when I say you squandered opportunities. The offense left a lot to be desired. I really genuinely feel like that's the case. And we're going to get more into that on Monday, probably. I think Monday will be Hoover specific. I think we'll probably get into either Monday or Wednesday. Remember, we're going to do a 3-day episode, 3-episode week. I don't know. We're going to do 3 episodes next week. That's the point. But yeah, shout out to volleyball, basketball, shout out to soccer, right? Soccer is moving forward. They have another game on Monday. They're currently in the tournament, and they just knocked off a team that was previously undefeated. So I said that because of this comment right here. Shout out to volleyball, shout out basketball, shout out soccer. But an upset is an upset. I think there's reason to be optimistic. There is. Jeremy Payne ran for 100 yards. Did you know? Hey, extra, read all about it. Breaking news. Did you know that TCU could run the football? I got a better question for you. Did you know that TCU could run the football when Kavorian Barnes wasn't around? I got a better question for you. Did you know that TCU could win a game when Josh Hoover didn't play his best? I got a better question for you. Did you know that TCU could win a game when Josh Hoover throws 2 interceptions because they hadn't done it up to this point? Maybe he has to go from 2 to 3, and that's the magic number. Maybe 2 is what it is. You have 2 interceptions from Hoover, losing the game. You have 3 interceptions from Hoover. Technically, it's not 2, it's more. That's the magic number. Did you know that? I didn't know half of it. I'll tell you that. I didn't know half of it, but I found out today. I found out this evening as TCU went down to Third Ward. They went down to Houston, Texas. They went on what I thought was not really a hostile environment. I thought it was more of a neutral site, and they beat a top 25 team. And though things didn't look the way we wanted, though it probably wasn't as encouraging as you desired, I still feel like there's value in an upset. I still feel like that offensive line played better than I had seen them pretty much all year. The way they were run blocking was amazing, and it was consistent.